Hi everyone, and welcome to QuickBooks UK's very first YouTube live session. My name's Aurora. I'm part of the customer success team here in London. I'm really excited to be here today. I'm going to be showing you how you can customize the way your invoices look in QuickBooks. If you haven't already, please check out the description box below just for a few house rules and links to useful community articles about the topics mentioned. The community is a great place for sharing ideas, discussion, and just learning something new. So let's jump straight in. Today we'll be looking at setting up your invoice template to make sure your invoices look just right for your business. I want to make this as interactive as possible, so if you have any questions for me, make sure you're leaving them down below and I'll be answering as we go along. So let's jump in. I'm in our sample company file at the moment and I want to set up my invoice template. So I'm just going to click on the gear icon up here and I'm going to go to custom form styles. This is where all the magic happens when it comes to the way your invoices look. I don't have any templates at the moment, so we just need to start by clicking on new style and then invoice. So there we go. We've got 4 sections to cover in here: design, content, emails, and we'll touch briefly on payments at the end. So the first thing that we want to do is give our template a name. I'm going to be very original and I'm just going to call it my template. There we go. First things first, let's decide how this thing looks. So we've got 5 templates for you to choose from. We've got airy, modern, fresh, bold, and friendly. I really like the way friendly looks because it's nice and friendly, and I'm going to go with that one. Next step, if your company has a logo, you can actually upload that and get it to display on your invoice. Usually we prefer a JPEG or a... My mind's gone blank on the other format, but luckily we've got a handy little article listed in the description box down below that will tell you exactly what you need for your logo. So if you do have one, you've got it in the right format, you've checked all of that, just click on add logo, browse for the file, and just upload it onto your invoice. Next up, let's change the colour, and I really fancy a lovely QuickBooks green. There we go, look at that. You can pick from the colours that we've got here, but you can also enter a colour code here on the left hand side if you've got a really specific colour you want to use. You can also choose from 4 fonts that we've got available here. I'm going to change mine to Times New Roman, and I'm going to make the font just a little bit bigger, just to make everything a little bit clearer. And finally, if you want to make changes to your margins, you want to fit the paper to a window envelope or use letterhead paper, you've also got options down here. So that's it for the basic design. Let's move on to the nitty-gritty of your invoice, the content. So I've clicked on content up here and you can see I've got 3 sections on my invoice. So let's start from the top. Let's make this nice and easy. I'm going to select the header. This is where we're going to find all the business information for both you and your client, and we can add a few extra fields. So you can see on there it's already got the business name, the phone number, the email address. We can make changes to that if we want. We can change our address if we want. We can add a website. So I'm going to put in my website. There we go. You'll notice here the VAT registration number is showing as a bunch of X's. Now, don't panic if you've already put your VAT registration number in the software and you're wondering why it's not showing. The preview on the right is not a live preview, so it will just show X's, but when you actually create an invoice for one of your customers, it will display the accurate VAT information. Moving on, you can make a few changes down here as well. So you can choose to have your invoice number showing or not showing. You can see that updating it at the top. If you don't want it to be called an invoice, you want to call it something else, why not? Change the name. But the most important one here is this one. Use custom transaction numbers. So if you want to use your own sequence of numbers for your invoices, maybe you've come over from another software, so you're in the middle of the sequence, make sure you've got this little box turned on here. It will just allow you to change the numbers on the invoices. So really, really important. And finally, just a few more boxes here. So the billing address here refers to your customers. If they have a separate shipping address, turn on the shipping address. We can also include the due date of the invoice and the customer's VAT number. So if you don't want them on there, you can just turn them off. And we also have down here 3 custom fields. So if there's anything else that you want to add to your QuickBooks invoice that you feel might be missing, you can add one of these boxes. So for example, I want to see the name of the sales rep on this invoice that sold the product to my customer. I can add a custom box, call it sales rep, and you can see it's appeared up here. Moving on to the middle section, which is your activity table, and this is where all of the details for the products that you are selling to your customers are going to appear. So right at the top up here, we've got the account summary. And if I show this on the invoice, you can see it's got the balance on the account, the new charges from my invoice, and the new total due. I don't really want this on my invoice, I'll turn it on, but it's really handy if you want it, it is there as an option. More importantly, though, you can pick here exactly what's showing. So if you wanted to add the date on which you sold the service, we can put that on there. Oh, I'm just noticing our first question of the day that's come in from Jack. Thank you, Jack. How do I change the invoice number? That's a great question. I've just mentioned how you turn on the facility to change that, but we can't change the invoice number in here just yet. We have to be on a live invoice. So bear with me. Once we're previewing our invoice in the next stage, then I'll show you how to change that invoice number. So don't worry, we'll just take a look at that later. So yeah, going back to our invoice, so the date, I want to show the dates on my invoice that I sold the service, that the service took place, I can add that on. But maybe I don't want to show the quantity, I don't want to show the rate, I just want to show an amount, I can do that as well. And if you want to take that a step further, you can click on Edit, Labels, and Widths, and you can play around with the widths of your different columns. So maybe I want the VAT column to be much bigger. I can do that here. I can shrink my activity. There we go. I want my VAT column to be the biggest one. There we go. I can do it. So you can just play around with the sliders a little bit, just to get your invoice just to look the way you want. And you can also click on show more activity options at the bottom, and it's taking the customization even further. So you can group your activities by day, week, month, or type. You can make sure that if you've got multiple rows that have got the same rate and description, you can actually get QuickBooks to show that as a single line. So that's really handy for keeping things nice and clean. You can show the markup. If you've got billable expenses, you might not want to show that markup, so we can not include it. Tax inclusive amounts, showing the billable times. There's lots of customization down here, things that you can turn on and off, whether you want your customer to see them or not. And finally, the third section, the footer. So what the footer allows you to do is just play with this information down here. So you can maybe you want to give your customers discounts, you can turn on this option. You might want to allow them to pay deposits, you can turn on this option. I've got my VAT summary down here, I can turn that off. So again, lots of little bits to play with here. And the most important ones here, I would say, that we get asked for a lot, the message to customers and the footer of the invoice. So you can see here the message to the customer has been used already for the payment details, but I don't want my payment details in here. I want them in my footer. So you can see, there you go, they've appeared down here in my footer. And here I want to say thank you so much for buying my products. So you could type in whatever you want. Again, you can play around with the font. I want this to be much bigger, and I want my footer to be on the left. So again, lovely little customization options there. One thing that we do get asked a lot, the message to customer, can I have a different message across my invoices? The message to the customer is company wide, it's not specific to your invoice template. So if you enter one message to your customer on here, that's what's going to appear across different invoice templates. So now that I'm done with the content of my invoice, I'm going to move on to the emails. So when you email your invoices to your customers, you can change the email every time you write one, every time you send one out. But if you want a blanket email that you'll be able to use for everyone, again, you can just come in here and change it. So you can change up here the subject line of your email. So this is just giving my company name. I just want to say invoice for awesome services. There we go. And we can have a greeting. We can turn the greeting off if we want. You can use the customer's full name. You can use their title and last name. You can address it directly to the company and take off the dear. Lots of little things to play around with here. And then you can change the text itself so that you decide what is being written to your customers. And on the right hand side again, we've got our nice little template, and it's just showing you the content of the invoice and what your customers are going to receive. And just note that it shows you here that it's from QuickBooks at notifications.intuit.com. So when you send out an invoice from within QuickBooks, it will be coming from that email address. So if you do get a customer who tells you they haven't received their invoice, they might be looking for it coming from your own email address. Just make sure that they're aware that it will be coming from this QuickBooks email. Just one little thing there just to be aware of. And the fourth section on our invoices is payments. We're not going to go into detail about it, but I just wanted to mention it. You can actually set up a payment method so that when your customer receives their invoice, they can just pay it at the click of a button. You can do one-off payments, or you can even set up direct debits. So that's pretty cool. But now I'm happy with the way that my invoice looks. I'm ready to go ahead with it, send it to a customer. So I'm going to click on Done down here. There we go. It's saved. We're in my custom form styles menu. We can see that my invoice is listed here. So how do we go and apply it to a real life customer? Or in my case, a sample customer. I'm going into sales. I'm going to invoices. And I've got a few invoices in here that I can play with. I'm going to send my invoice to Hazel Robinson. There we go. So just going back to Jack's question about the invoice numbers, you can see on here on the right, I have a box that says invoice number. So what you want to do if you want to change the sequence, just click into the box, and I'm going to put my sequence in as A10014. And what will happen, QuickBooks will then pick up the sequence and change the numbers for you. So that's really, really handy if you don't want to use the QuickBooks sequence. Okay, so how do we actually send the invoice to a customer? Well, the first thing we need to do is just to make sure that we've got the right template. So just click on Customize at the bottom of the screen. So you can see it gives us the option for New Style, which will go back to where we were previously, but I've already created my template, so I'm going to click on My Template. Then I'm just going to save my invoice with the new template. And I'm going to click on print or preview if I want to print it. And there we go. This one's actually already paid, so you can see it's added paid across it. But if it was a brand new invoice, it wouldn't have that. But it's got all the display information that I wanted, the color, the format, the font, the size. It's got my website on there. It's got the size of the columns that I wanted it. So it looks just right to me. Now I can either print this, or I can actually send this directly to my customer with those emails we customized by, oh, well, Hazel doesn't have an email, unfortunately, so let's rectify that. But if I want to email my invoice to Hazel, I just click Save and Send down here, and you can see it's coming up with the template. So I've just been asked, can I create multiple templates for different customers? Absolutely, you can. Say I wanted to use a different template for Hazel, I just need to click on Customize again down here and click New Style, or I could just go back into Custom Form Styles through the gear icon. So you can have as many invoice templates as you like. There's no limit on that. But the one thing that we did touch on earlier, which I'll just mention again, is this message to customer in the content section. That will always be the same across your invoices. It will be one default message for your whole company. Not to worry, if you need to do a different one for another customer, you can also edit that directly on the invoice down here, message on invoice. That's just one thing to be aware of. But yes, other than that, B Gosling, you can send as many you can have as many invoice templates as you want for all of your different customers. So, one last thing I'd just like to touch on before we end this session. You might be thinking, well, we've looked at this, but actually there's just something missing that I need to do. One that we get a lot is people who need a second logo on their invoice. So we get this, for example, from gas engineers who might need to add a second logo, one for the business, one for I think the certification that they've taken or whatever they need it to be. And QuickBooks can only support one logo when you're going through custom form styles. Luckily, we have a second option for you, and that's called import styles. And what import styles is going to allow you to do is create your template in a Word document and bring that into QuickBooks. Now there are a few rules for that. So what you'll need to do is click on the gear icon again, and this time we're going to go to QuickBooks Labs. And you can see over here we've got import style. So what you'll want to do is turn that on. We've got a really handy demo video here on the left hand side, so make sure you watch that video. It's going to give you all the instructions that you need to create your Word document and then import it in, and that way when you're ready to go in, just go back into custom form styles, same as we did earlier, but this time choose import style, browse for your file over here, go through the wizard, and then that way you can have your template with as many logos that you want or extra information that maybe wasn't available in our QuickBooks Customizer. So, unless we have any more questions, I think we've come to the end of our session. So, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you've all enjoyed our first ever YouTube Live. I know I have. This was really exciting for me and all the team in London. It'd be really fantastic to see you over on our online community. We'll be leaving the links below so that you can join us, and we'll also be putting out information for future episodes. So, guys, if you enjoyed watching this, please give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so that you know when the video is coming, and I'll be seeing you all on the next one. Bye!